All right,
Hi,
we'll give everybody a minute or two to enter
join.
from the waiting room.
Great. Hello, everyone. Excited to show you Baselane, talk a little more about what we do. Thanks for coming.
Awesome. Okay, I think we can kick it off here. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining. I'm Jake. I'm Director of Biz Ops and Strategy at Baselane. Um, and we just wanted to take some time to help better understand kind of all Baselane can do for you and make sure we're answering your questions as well. So this is like the first of our series of like live Friday demos. Here with me, I have Larissa, who is like one of the first employees at Baselane, knows the product better than anyone. And is going to walk us through kind of the Baselane value propositions as well as the product. So we'll do about 15, maybe 20 minutes of like overview to give you a feel for the product. And then we'll put a lot of the time into Q&A to make sure we're answering any questions about how you can best leverage Baselane for you. So encourage you to ask questions in the chat throughout. Um, I'll be moderating and like running the chat. So once Larissa's done presenting, we'll make sure to answer everyone's questions. Awesome. All right. With that, Larissa, please take it away. Here, I'll pull up my screen.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you all. And thanks, Jake, for the intro. My name is Larissa. I've been with Baselane since we started and very excited to kind of discuss Baselane and how you can use it, for your rental finances. The first thing I always like to say is Baselane is designed for investors of all sizes and strategies. We have a lot of investors that are short-term, mid-term, long-term, and various, portfolios. We are the all-in-one platform that's really designed to help you manage your finances and really grow. If you don't mind just switching the slides here, can highlight sort of what we are. This is a little bit about the agenda, what we're going to talk about and things like that. But if you skip to the next slide here, we're in banking. So what is Baselane? Baselane is a real estate financial management platform that focuses on three core features. We have banking built for real estate investors with integrated bookkeeping. So no more having to use Chase, Wells Fargo, larger banks. Instead, you can have a bank that literally has the bookkeeping built into it. So you're doing the bookkeeping as you are transacting. Hassle-free rent collection. So no more having to manually collect your rent. You are going to have rent collection available to you. You can invite your tenants. They'll have a tenant portal. We just launched credit reporting for tenants so they can boost their credit while they're paying on Baselane. And it's going to be automatically tagged to the category and the property as well. So again, no more having to collect checks and do the bookkeeping later, Zelle with limitations. We have a really great rent collection that's going to show you, where does your rent stand each month? Is it completed? Is it processing on its way? Or if it's overdue? It also see that we have some poll questions here, so that might have popped up on your screen as well. Feel free to answer. We always love to know who our audience is and, see how we kind of understand what you guys are looking for. And then lastly, we have the accounting built for real estate. So I'm sure we all use various tools. We have Excel spreadsheets, we have QuickBooks, which sometimes really isn't very intuitive and sort of just built for CPAs and not real estate investors. Maybe you pay, for bookkeepers. Our bookkeeping is simple and it's easy, and you're always going to be able to understand your cash flow. I'm an investor myself. I bought a small property a couple of months back, and I fully use Baselane, and I'm 100% aware of how much I have put into my property and how much I'm making like revenue wise. And we'll kind of dive deeper in that as well. And then lastly, we have screening like your tenants. We have LLC creation. We have a whole dashboard dedicated to helping you achieve your real estate business. So tenant screening, LLC formation, we have lending partners and insurance with OB, which is great. So you can get your landlord insurance as well as you're kind of setting everything up. It's a one-stop shop. So let's kind of dive a little bit deeper. So now you know a little bit about Baselane and what we're all about. And we can kind of talk about the banking. So I'm sure there's a bunch of us that have have various bank accounts that we use, or maybe everything's going into one account. Now, the beauty of Baselane is you can have all of your entities, your LLC, your series LLC, your corporations, partnerships in one login. So you don't have to use multiple logins. And I'll kind of dive deeper and show you what I mean by that. but it's so great to have everything under one platform. And the beauty of that also is you can have individual virtual accounts within your entities. So now, instead of having everything dumped into one bank account, you can have what we call virtual banking accounts within your entity, your LLC, or your sole prop account as an individual. So I can say, you know what, I have 3 properties. Now I can create 3 individual checking accounts, virtual checking accounts that can be assigned to my properties individually, have separate account numbers, can send and receive funds. And now I'm seeing my property's performance individually or even as a whole. That's one thing I love about that. So you can have dedicated accounts assigned to your property. So every time transactions come in, it's already assigned to that property. So you're cutting that bookkeeping in half. Separately, we have virtual cards. These virtual cards have auto tagging rules. So if you have reoccurring expenses like utilities, if there are short-term investors on here, think about paying your housekeeping, maintenance. You can make dedicated cards with specific categorization tagged to it. So I can have a dedicated card for housekeeping, for utilities. Every time that card has been transacted, you can have up to 10 cards per bank account, even your virtual accounts. But every time those cards are transacted, the bookkeeping is done. Most banks are not designed to help you keep track of your expenses, but that's where Baselane came in. You can keep track of your expenses because your banking is built with integrated bookkeeping. We also have reoccurring payments, so you can send to vendors. We have ACH, wires, check sent, where we can cut the check for you. And we also have checkbooks. So you can also buy checkbooks for a small fee. And you can set up reoccurring payments to those vendors or to those recipients. And you can also set up reoccurring transfers between all of your accounts. So if you kind of want to set it and forget it, you can set up those transfers. I'll kind of highlight that shortly. And you'll be able to tag it to a category and a property. So ultimately, while you're banking, you're doing the bookkeeping as well. And we're also connectable to various platforms like Airbnb, PayPal, Cash App, Xero, even QuickBooks. I would say that, our bookkeeping is designed for real estate investing, so we'll talk a little bit more about that, but good to highlight if you're already, in it for the year, you can definitely connect your Baselane banking accounts to those platforms. We can switch. And then I've mentioned accounting built for rental properties, right? So I'm sure there's various amount of people here that might be using Excel, spending countless hours trying to figure out where this transaction was assigned to. Maybe you're paying hundreds of dollars on CPAs or bookkeepers, or even, using QuickBooks or trying to figure that out. These things can be costly and timely. With Baselane, I kind of mentioned a lot of that integration with our banking where you can save the time, but also I want to highlight that you can also upload your transactions via Plaid. That's our third-party secured provider that allows you to actually connect your credit cards, your external banks to Baselane, importing up to 24 months of transactions. So you can actually do the bookkeeping for external banks too, even if you're not sure about using Baselane banking at the moment. Test it out with your external banks. You can utilize our bookkeeping and see your reporting and cash flow. So it's real-time cash flow. We have Schedule E reports, perfect for taxes. We have a tax package. Many CPAs have thanked us for this. It includes the Schedule E report, all of your transactions, and any receipt that you've tagged to that. So it's really designed for, investors that are using banking and the bookkeeping because it's going to really be quick and save you the time. But if you're interested in, trying it out with an external bank, I 100% would love for you to try that in the sense that you're going to be able to really have a simple and easy platform that's going to keep track of your expenses, assign it to an expense category, subcategories, assign it to a property, split transactions, upload receipts, and it's all user-friendly. And then you can head over to the cash flow, always see your cash flow and cash flow statements, download P&Ls, Schedule E, NOI, things like that. And we'll show you a little more about that as well. But I kind of want to highlight the benefits of the bookkeeping. It's simple. That's the best part. It's simple and it's easy. We're not, figuring out our spreadsheets. We're not spending money and hours on QuickBooks or trying to figure it out on our own. You can have your bank accounts connected. You can use Baselane's banking with integration and really save that time. And lastly, hassle-free rent collection, right? So what I love about our rent collection, and I use this as well for my property, is I can invite my tenant. My tenant has their own portal. They'll have access to all of their invoices. current as well as future. If you are midterm, month to month, you can set up your tenants on here. You're no longer having to use, various platforms to collect the rent. It'll all be on the same platform that you're banking and doing your bookkeeping, and it will automate the rent received as rent and to the property. So you don't even have to tackle that expense. It's great for your tenants as well because we just launched credit reporting. I can't emphasize that enough. Now your tenants who make on-time payments are going to be able to really, achieve getting higher credit, which is great. And it's nice because you also do tenant screening. The platform is super easy for your tenants to use. It takes about 2 to 3 minutes for them to sign up. My tenants were super happy about it. They were able to pay ACH for free. It's free ACH for tenants whose landlords are banking with Baselane. If you are not banking with Baselane, you can still collect rent, but there is a small $2 fee that you have the choice of who pays. And they can also pay debit or credit card. There is a 3.49% processing fee, but it's a very simple platform, and happy to kind of dive deeper on that as well. And that's kind of what, Baselane is essentially all about. Now, I'm going to share my screen. I just wanted to kind of give you a little bit of a feel, a little preview of what we're all about, banking, rent collection, integrated bookkeeping, and now I'm going to share my demo account. One moment here. Make sure that I'm still signed in.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. How are we doing? We're doing well. I think Jake might have froze. Can everybody hear me? I would assume everyone can hear me, and I'm going to keep going. Jake will be right back with us very shortly. Oh, perfect. Thank you, Andy, for confirming you can hear me. I'm going to keep going. So now I'm going to show you the platform and kind of let you know what it's all about. Kind of sold you the dream here. Now let's kind of see it. It's a super easy and intuitive. Oops, I shared the wrong screen. My apologies. Here we go. Can you see my screen? I believe you all can. So this is Baselane, right? So when you create a Baselane account, might I add that you can add collaborators. So if you have partners, if you have accountants, bookkeepers, a team, the first thing I'd always recommend is invite them to your workspace. This is in beta right now. We are offering this for free. This will be a $5 free fee per collaborator starting in Q1. But the thing I'd love to add is you can invite partners, CPAs, bookkeepers to Baselane. You're simply just going to put their email down and choose the access. So what's nice about the access is you're choosing either standard, where they have the entire access, or limited, where they can just see, your transactions or help you with rent collection. That's a pretty good plus. I mean, now you can have other users in your login. And then as far as the dashboard goes, you can kind of see my banking's doing quite well, my rent collection, all my transactions, cash flow, and then of course our partners. So I'll kind of highlight that as well, but we do have a bunch of partnerships for LLC formation, again, insurance with OB, Simplest for loans. We also have other lending partners, and of course, tenant screening powered by TransUnion, and a few other stuff here. Now, I mentioned with Baselane banking, I said in the beginning, you can have all of your bank accounts under one login. You'll see it right here, right? These are all of my various, rental strategies that I work on, and they're individual entities, kind of like a series LLC. So in this case, if I decide to open a Baselane bank account, I can open as many entities as needed. It's very simple. It takes about 3 minutes to apply online. You're no longer spending hours at a brick and mortar showing documentation. You can do this at the comfort of your own home. So again, I'll highlight that you can open an account as an individual in your name, and you can also open an account as a business as many times as you like if you have other EINs, separate EINs. Now, once you've been approved, it takes about 24 hours for it to be approved. Again, this is all online. You're going to have your accounts here. So when I click on STR, every account is going to have a main account. The main account has a physical debit card. That is what differentiates from the virtual and the main that I've kind of mentioned. And the beauty of that too is when you click on account details, I've also highlighted, you can tag your property to your bank account, cutting your bookkeeping in half right there. You're also going to see your legal entity name and our banking partner. So Baselane is a neobank. We're an online bank. We have a banking partner. They are Thread. Thread is located in Tennessee, and they have FDIC insurance up to $3 million. you are transacting with Baselane. You have a Thread bank account. So everything is done on the platform, but the funds are held in an FDIC insured bank, Thread Bank in Tennessee, and up to 3 million. Now, you can order checkbooks for a small fee as well. You can create virtual accounts instantly. So if I wanted to scroll down over here, I could just say add a virtual account. Now I can create a virtual checking account with a separate account number. I can tag it to my property. And also I can create a savings account. We're offering high yield, 3.56 APY up to $50,000 or more. It's a tiered APY. You're always visible on how to achieve that. So you'll always see the tiered APY here. And you'll also know that this APY is going into a savings account. We don't have any limits on our savings account. You can move funds as many times as you'd like between savings and checking. And what's nice is the $50,000 or more tiered is based off of all of your accounts combined, checking and savings, but it will be applied to what is in your savings. So I would totally, many of our users, including myself, will kind of just move funds, reoccurring transfers between those accounts. So I'm not really manually making those transfers, but every month I might move a little bit from my savings to my checking, and that's done reoccurring as it's scheduled. So we've kind of talked about checking and savings. You can create as many virtual accounts. And the beauty of this is you're organizing your banking. You're organizing your banking by your properties. So each of these STR listings are individual properties that are tagged to their own. They're assigned to a property, and then they can transact. So you can take the account number and routing number and send it to Airbnb or put it on Airbnb. You can send funds via wire, ACH, check. You can send a check for you. It's a full bank account. It's fully operational. And then the other additional amenities here is that you can create virtual cards. I've kind of mentioned this a few times. You can have up to 10 virtual cards per account. And those virtual cards, automate them, utilize them. Have virtual cards dedicated to maintenance, utilities. Maybe you have a team. Maybe you have a property manager. I have a property manager, but you know what? I created a dedicated card for my property manager. I no longer want to receive statements from them. I want to know where that money is. And so I have a card that has a spending limit. And the beauty is it's quick. You click add virtual card. You're choosing which bank account is funding the card. And then you're giving it a nickname, a spending limit. You have the control, daily or monthly, and then you tag it to a property or an expense category. I've kind of highlighted our expense categorization is based off of Schedule E, so you can be very specific with the type of card this is. Is it for supplies? Is it for gardening, linen, things like that? We have subcategories, so it could be very specific. And then once you create that card, you'll have a 16-digit card number with the Visa logo. So you can you can take this card, add it to your digital wallet, Apple Pay, Google Pay. You can put it on various platforms that you need to pay bills on, maybe an Amazon card. Your team can use it. And if you no longer need it, you can lock it or even terminate the card. It's just a really great way to kind of set it and forget it. I think in real estate investing, it's fast. There's a lot of moving parts. Why not create virtual cards that can kind of help you achieve what you need to do? So have those dedicated cards that can be paid for those various expenses. And then lastly, with our banking, I've kind of mentioned a few ways to send funds in or send funds out. Send money, this is a great option for you as you need to send various funds, you can add recipients. So you'll store all of the information that you have for various recipients. So I have a title company, I pay my title company when I'm buying houses. I have a cleaning company. Joe, unfortunately, something happened with my toilet here. So I can choose, what type of ACH I want to send them, wire or check. You'll see various fees. So we do have some small fees within our banking. I do want to highlight that we do not charge monthly fees or minimum balances to use Baselane. Most banks will charge you a minimum balance or a monthly fee. We do not charge fees to hold funds within the account. We do offer a la carte features that might help you, right? So we are offering free wire transfers until Q1 of 2025, and then it will be $15 per outbound wire. Wires coming in, it is free. Just think your external bank may charge their own fees. Wires going out of Baselane will be a small fee of $15, mostly half of what most banks charge as is. Checks, if you don't want to have a checkbook, if you would prefer we send it, it's $2 per check sent. So we can mail the check, we can create it and send it to the recipient within 7 to 10 days. Standard ACH, that's 3 business days. If you'd like, we're offering same day ACH. This one's great if you need some things fast. It is 1% of the transfer, so up to $15. Now, in this case, I'm just sending standard ACH for Joe, and I have to pay him, a total of $3,000. So I can make a reoccurring payment. And what's nice here is I can choose from any of the bank accounts that I have on Baselane. I don't have to go into another bank. All of the bank accounts that are opened within my Baselane login are visible. So I can say, you know what, I need to do this from STR listing, and I can create a reoccurring payment. Now, this is the start date. It's the date that I'm setting this series up, but I would like the funds to leave out of the account, let's say on the 15th. And what's great about this is I can continue until I cancel on a specific date, or I can say, you know what, after 3 payments. And here is going to show you every payment that will come out of my bank account. So again, I'm setting it and forgetting it. I'm tagging it to my expense category, and I'm tagging it to my property. So that way, when the transaction leaves, I don't have to worry about it. It's already done for me. It's already assigned to the expense category and the property, let's say. And of course, I mentioned you can also transfer funds between your Baselane accounts as many times as you like. There's no limits. You can do the same thing, reoccurring transfers. And of course, you'll want to know, how do you fund your account? You can use mobile check deposit. So we do have a mobile check deposit feature. You can send funds from an external bank. You can send it from PayPal, Venmo. And of course, you can also connect your external account. I've mentioned this a few times. You can connect your external account via Plaid. Plaid is our third-party provider that has relationships with thousands of banks. You can find your bank here, connect it, and what's nice about this is once it's connected, up to 24 months of transactions will be imported. So you can do the bookkeeping for past transactions from this account, and you can also send money into your Baselane bank account this way as well.
Larissa,
Yeah,
I'm going to answer a couple questions that came up
of
here live.
course.
So we have a question
Yes.
from Eric. Can Baselane accounts accept international wire transfers? The answer to that is yes, they can.
No, we cannot. We are a domestic bank. We cannot accept international wire transfers, but I would recommend that you can use Wise. It is a platform that can send funds internationally, and you can connect your Baselane account. We are a US bank, so we are only domestic at this time. We don't have international wires. Apologies.
Perfect. Thank you, Larissa.
Uh, we definitely love feedback. Might I add, we will take this information and share this with our internal team because we love to gather so we can achieve that. And if we need international wires, we're already taking note of that. Thank you.
I also saw a question around the wire fees.
Yes.
So right now wires are free on Baselane, and we've explored a potential $15 charge. But I will say that, like, right now what we're mulling over as an organization is that people really value the free wires as like a competitive differentiator. And so I saw the question of, like, comparing to B of A, you get free outbound wires. Inbound wires will always be free. And they're currently free at Baselane as well. And I think we're leaning towards remaining that being the case as well.
Oh, lovely. Perfect. Awesome. What other questions do we have?
And then the last question I saw is related to a property management subscription. I was not sure exactly what Dallas you meant by that. Like, Baselane only has one kind of user tier. But Larissa, maybe you can explain a bit like how you use Baselane with your property manager to kind of like maximize your setup.
Yeah, a couple of things. So I have a property manager. I kind of mentioned I have a virtual card that they can use. I live in California. My property is based in Indiana. I used to get a bunch of statements. I felt like, where was all of this approval? And instead, I made a $500 card per month. Anything that exceeded that would need to, call me personally. So I like the virtual card route. Additionally, as I kind of mentioned earlier, you can invite your property manager to Baselane if you'd like. So you both have the ability to use Baselane together. Maybe your property manager is just focused on rent collection. You can invite them. You can type in their email. So we'll just do this one for ease. And now you're going to tell us, like, what do you want your property manager to have? Do you want them to have full access? Do you want them to have limited access? In this case, I would prefer limited. I just want them to help me with the rent collection. They can see my accounts, but they have no access to doing anything transactionally. And of course, maybe they want to help me on the bookkeeping. Like I said, maybe you have a bookkeeper, a CPA, they can come in and actually categorize your transactions, maybe review your cash flow, double check, reconciliation. You can give them that access. Again, this is great if you have partnerships, bookkeepers, property managers, things like that. Also, property managers use Baselane themselves. So a lot of our own users are property managers, and some of them will invite their owner to view their statements or the rent collection, or they're just, utilizing Baselane with the banking, the bookkeeping, and, the rent collection, and sending the property owners the, monthly fee at the end of the month. But I would mention that this is a pretty simple way. They'll get an invitation, and if you don't need to let them have access again, you can always revoke the access, but you just simply click invite here. Yeah, that's how I would do it. And also, if Austin or Dallas has clarified, my apologies, what that was, I'm also happy to answer anything else there.
No, I think that answered the question as well. We also have a question on, can we maybe quickly cover uploading receipts?
Yes, of course. Perfect. That's actually the segue that I'm going into. So thank you for that. I did mention that you can connect your external accounts to Baselane. So I have a few here, and then up to 24 months of transactions, depending on the bank that you bank with currently. External bank would be imported to Baselane. So what I'm going to do is head over to transactions. This is my transaction ledger. This is where everything is going to be, is Baselane banking, my external banks, credit cards, things like that. So it's nice. You can actually filter. So I could filter by a lot of my Baselane bank accounts. I can filter by external accounts and just do the bookkeeping per account I'd like, or maybe I'm doing reconciliation. I can filter for a specific date or do year to date, focus on a property, uncategorize, even attachments. So you mentioned the beauty of attaching a receipt. So the nice thing about Baselane is if you're on mobile, you can, and you're kind of like on your way and you need to go upload something, you have the receipt in front of you, take a picture and just go onto your Baselane accounts for Baselane banking users, and you can simply just upload it to that pending transaction. You can also upload pending transactions for external accounts on desktop. You're just simply going to go in, click on that little arrow, and just click upload here. So you can just drag the file. You can upload from your computer as well. Again, with Baselane banking users, if you just want to go to your bank account, you see that transaction, you can simply go in, take that photo. For non-Baselane banking users, you'd use your desktop computer and you can upload here. You can also split transactions. So I could go in and say, like, this 230 could be split to various properties or different categories and things like that. I can also do a really nice thing called a bulk edit. So I can actually search the vendor, and we'll say it's Chase. I can go in and select date here, edit transaction. And now I'm basically telling Baselane these 21 transactions can be a specific category and be assigned to a specific property. So again, you don't have to individually go in and tag all of your properties or all of the transactions individually. I would really utilize the search bar to do a bulk edit so you can quickly, find those transactions and then just decide to tag them as a whole. Additionally, I will say that in the future, we are looking at auto tagging for you. So those reoccurring transactions, a lot of this is done on Baselane, but we've also heard from users that are like, hey, I have external banks that need some auto tagging. So we are working internally with our product team to kind of auto tag for you to see those reoccurring mortgage payments and know to tag them ourselves. But I would highly recommend to do a bulk edit. Additionally, like if you're coming from a different platform, maybe your bank cannot connect with Baselane, or maybe you've already done all of your bookkeeping this year, proud of you. Why don't you import your transactions that you've already done into Baselane? We have a really cool importing feature here. You can either do, like, if you can't connect externally, go ahead and import a CSV file, and we'll walk you through that process. So you can, assign the CSV that's uploaded will be assigned to a description, a date, a header, and then you can tag it to different properties, categories, and things like that. This is really comes in handy if you've already done the bookkeeping, if your external bank or credit card can't import through Plaid. This is an alternative to, just do a mass import. Or, of course, you can also manually add transactions. But again, it's just a simple way to keep up with your day-to-day, with your expenses per property or for your portfolio, or just kind of like knowing that you can go in and genuinely just choose based off of simplicity here. What is this fee going to be? What property it is? Leave some notes, split transactions, upload receipts. It's quite simple. And then additionally, you're just going to head over to your analytics and reporting, and you're just going to see, your performance. Like, I know for 2023, this is how much came in, this is how much I made, things like that. It can be for all properties, it can be for individual properties. But what I love about this is it's a breakdown by category. So I really know where all my money is going. I know that, I had a bunch for operating expenses. What did that look like? What does other operating expenses mean? I can simply click on this and go down and say, oh, this is an HOA, or I can double check my work and say, hey, I didn't tag this property. I probably need to do that here. But you're always kind of double checking and looking. We have a really nice Schedule E, again, report. That is what we use for tax purposes. You're going to be able to kind of see all of those operating expenses that you paid, double check your work, right? We're all about double checking, making sure things look good, and it's all visible for you. So it's knowing like, what does fees and other revenues mean? Scroll down and kind of see what that meant. And if all looks good here, you can just cash flow statement. Yes, did you have a question?
So Andy Bauman has a question around building for owner financing or purchase loans, like some of the more complicated bookkeeping features. What I would say is like our transaction tagging is like really built around Schedule E roll up. So it's really just like the principal and interest split. We are actually like a priority in Q1 of next year is to expand our bookkeeping features. So I think these are actually great recommendations. And I'm going to make sure to add that to our roadmap of requests. But today it's like a bit, I would say, simpler loan tracking, such that like you can roll up for the Schedule E report, but not maybe like track to the level of granularity you're asking about in this question.
Right. I will say though, like definitely utilize the categorization search bar because you can definitely find very specific things. So, if you're looking for other loan payments, if you're looking for, I was speaking to someone who was like, I actually have rent, but I'm making money in my how should I say this? They were basically telling me like, Larissa, I'm funding my business. It's revenue, but it's not necessarily rent. We're always down to brainstorm or kind of figure out what this would work. And so I suggested, fees and other revenue. This is still going to be a positive in your cash flow. So it's definitely all about trying to figure out what we have currently and just know that what Jake said, we love feedback and we're always eager to build more robust reporting and more robust analytics. But this is kind of where I would kind of recommend starting and seeing what could work here.
And
Again,
one other
yeah,
question on that. Sorry,
yeah,
the question was, is the Schedule E report what you can give your CPA? The answer is
yes.
100% yes. A lot of our users have success with like just making sure they're tagging transactions as they go, and then they can just generate an automated report they send to their CPA to file Schedule E. I would say that's
Yeah.
what the majority of Baselane users use. You definitely can self-file, but most people are doing the Schedule E export, sending it to their CPA.
And you can also download this report and plug in those numbers yourself, just like self-filing. I would say that what's nice here is you're going to filter for that Schedule E, and then you have a tax package. So this tax package is going to be all your hard work that you did throughout the year, whether that was automated with Baselane, if you're utilizing our bookkeeping with your external banks, but everything that you've had for that year could be downloaded as a package. So I can choose it individually for all my properties or per property or for all. I can do it for a time period. And it's going to also not only include that Schedule E report, but every transaction that you've tagged and any receipts that you've attached. So again, it's just a really nice package to hand over to your CPA or use to plug in your own numbers. But I would say that this analytics is really designed to kind of focus on your day-to-day. It's live cash flow. And again, we really are building out a stronger, more robust reporting, but we have P&L, we have Schedule E. You can customize these reports. So a lot of our property management companies that are on Baselane are customizing reports that they can share with their property owners. Any other questions before I simply dive into rent collection? We're good? I think so. Okay, let's get over.
I'll let you know. We're getting a flurry, so I love the activity, but I
I love this. This is what it's all about. And always happy to answer questions in between. So now I completely forgot. I should probably have said this in the beginning. You got to add your properties. Probably the most simple thing. And when you sign up for Baselane, we're actually going to ask you to add your properties immediately. So add your properties. You can have as many properties as you have. As you need. There's no limit to how many properties you have, and there's no limit to how many units are within the properties. So I have a couple of properties here. I can simply, add the property. I can choose what this property what the property details are. If it's not listed here, select other. We have a lot of creative investors in Baselane, and you can definitely choose what type of property you have. In this case, I'll just do duplex. I can just type in kind of an example here, and then I can just type in an address, and oops, something will show up here. And now you can also choose units. So you can distinguish by unit. But once you've added the property, again, very simple, you create the property. You're just going to see it on the summary page. You can head over to details, and you can also add your property financials. This is totally optional, but it's nice to know, what was your purchase price? When did you buy the property? Mortgage details. And we also have Zillow API. So if you do want to know the current market value, you can look here and you have that Zestimate. So you can actually paste that Zestimate onto Baselane so you know the current market value based off of Zillow API. Now, once you've added your property, again, there's so much you can do with that, right? Assigning your bank accounts to the properties, bookkeeping, and of course, our lovely friend rent collection. No more manual rent collecting. You are going to use Baselane. It's a very simple process. You are setting up rent collection. There's 7 steps. You're adding your rental details. So you're, saying which unit, if there is one, you're doing month to month, fixed term. You can see a preview. We have per day, one-time late fee. But if you have per day late fees, those are coming as well. You can tell us the rent amount. If you have reoccurring fees that are always on the invoice each month, go ahead and add that here. Adding fees and security deposits, you can have a security deposit that is separate from like a rent invoice. So you can say, hey, I'd love for this tenant to, before they join Baselane, before they join or move into my property, let's have them collect the security deposit first. You can set up your invoice there. They know they have to pay that. You can put a due date, or maybe you've already received it, mark it as paid. Maybe you're just moving your existing rent collection into Baselane. You're more than welcome to do that as well. You can collect rent up front, maybe prorated rent, maybe one-time fees like move-in fee, key fee. These would be, separate invoices here. And then step 4 is kind of just reviewing your invoices. And step 5 is choosing your bank account. So I've kind of mentioned here with Baselane, it is free for your tenants if you collect rent into Baselane banking. Rent can be into Baselane banking within 2 business days. We'll process it. Standard external banks, it takes about 4 to 5 business days to process. So it is a plus to bank with Baselane, faster rent payments. If you choose to also base with Baselane, it is free for the tenants. If you choose to have rent collected into an external account, you would just add your external account here, and there would be a $2 ACH fee per invoice. You as the landlord can choose who's taking on that fee. Is it you who will be taking on the fee or your tenants? And then once you've chosen your rent collection here, you would add you'd add your tenant details. So we'll need their first name, last name, email, phone number. They're going to get an invitation to Baselane. They're going to set up their account through the invitation. It takes 2 to 3 minutes to create their account. They'll have access to all of their invoices, payment history, rent collection terms. They'll also be invited to set up for credit boosting if they'd like, and they'll be able to add their payment method. So again, free ACH if depositing into Baselane banking, $2 fee if into an external account, and if they pay debit or credit cards, there's a 3.49% processing fee charged to the tenant. Once you've added your tenant details, you'll just go to step 7, review all of your information, right? You want to make sure everything looks good. and then you're going to confirm and invite your tenant. Now, once that's created, you're going to have your live rent collection listed here. So all of these, and then you can go in and you can, for instance, view all invoices and add a one-time fee. Maybe something happened. Maybe you need to bill them. Maybe you're creating, partial payments. You have the option to do add invoice here, and you can choose when that due date is, what bank account it's being received into, and then adding the fee here. Lastly, if you need to push out your rent collection terms, maybe you have a commercial property and it increases every 2 years. You can go over to the rent collection amount. You can change the amount to that increase. And then you can say, hey, Baselane, all of these leases that are already, all the invoices that are on here, I don't have to manually change. I can just go in and say, February, I'm going to change this to $1,400. You can also add new fees, remove a late fee, edit this. You have the ability to do that. Click Save Changes, and now it'll say, starting February 1st, the payment will be $1,400 versus $1,350. So you are able to, make those changes. And lastly, I would say my favorite thing about the rent collection is the payment summary, right? We want visibility for you to understand where is your rent payments each month. So these boxes are always going to tell you, what is upcoming. So for December, I have an invoice upcoming here. What is processing? What is the ETA on that? What's overdue? Unfortunately, I have a lot of tenants here that aren't paying, or of course, what's completed. But you can go in to every invoice that you have and see, an invoice break, a payment timeline is what we would call it. So you're going to see, when was the payment overdue? Was there a late fee added? Did my tenant schedule the payment? And when is the estimated date it will go into the account? So we do like to provide a visibility, and it's just a cleaner way to see, each month, what has been paid, what hasn't. You can filter, so you can see like, hey, what has been completed this month? What's missing? All of these things, you have filter options. And it's just a simple way to kind of keep up with the rent and have everything in one place. I think that's the beauty of Baselane. It's everything under one roof, and to have that visibility. Any questions?
Oh, sorry, I was on mute there. There was a question around linking Baselane to QuickBooks.
Yes, you can do that on QuickBooks Online. I'm pretty sure Baselane, on QuickBooks Online, they use Plaid as well, I believe, and you can import. If you have QuickBooks Desktop, unfortunately, it wouldn't be compatible with Plaid, with Baselane. But if you'd like, and you're using Baselane Banking, you could download the CSVs and probably import it that way. Last thing but yeah, that's kind of how I would do QuickBooks Online would be the easiest.
And then there was another question around, said, I would like to use this to track payments on loans, but those aren't technically renters and they pay via Zelle. Could that be accomplished? Maybe, Larissa, maybe you could tell more about like manually updating the invoices.
Yes. So you're saying that, so just so I understand correctly, you are receiving loan payments. Is that correct? Is that what they're saying, receiving?
This is my understanding. Yes.
Cool. So we are not compatible, unfortunately, with Zelle. Zelle was designed for larger banks like Bank of America, Chase, things like that. We're a smaller bank. Like I said, we're going to do same day ACH. But if you connect your external account to Baselane, right, and you're receiving Zelle payments this way, you could head over to your transactions. And I think I mentioned that a little earlier. In the rent category here, there's also fees and other revenue. It could be other fees if you'd like. You could say like other fees and leave a note and say that this is a loan payment. It's obviously I'm assuming it's revenue. For you, it's just a loan for them. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, that's where I would go with that. Because there is other loan payments, but it's unfortunate. It's fortunately going to be like a negative, right? You're paying the loan off. And then lastly,
Sorry,
any
one other item I'd
yes,
recommend here. Also, like if you wanted to like track it monthly, you could
yes.
set up a rent collection invoice, and there is the ability to like manually mark an
Ah,
invoice paid,
this
so
is true.
that when you see the rent collection come in each month, it can just help give you that monthly reminder. So you can manually mark it as paid, and still set up the invoice as a way to track and remind the quote unquote tenant, who's really just like paying them blood.
Paying outside, but you can mark it as paid when you receive it. Yeah, that's a good one. And then the last thing I would want to
Sorry,
mention,
sorry,
yes,
Larissa, I can get you off. But one other question that was asked is the question is this being recorded? The answer is yes. And after the call, we will send around an email containing not only the recording, but also if you have 2 minutes, we have a very brief poll, and it'll be or a survey, I should say, just to make sure that we're making this as valuable as possible. So we'd really appreciate it if people take the time to fill it out. It literally takes, I think, 45 seconds.
Yeah, tell us how we're doing. The last thing I just wanted to mention on rent collection is like those MTR investors out there, or a long-term investor who's, a lease is going to end, right? You're still collecting maybe for that month, but you've already set up a new tenant. You need to collect the security deposit. No problem. You can set up rent collection for as many new upcoming leases as you like. So it's really great if you're, moving, if a tenant's moving out, but still on the platform, you got a new one. You don't have to, create another unit or create a pretend property. You can just continuously set up the rent collection. And then also here, you'll have your tenants. So you'll see which tenants there are. You can go in and you can add or edit notes. I really love that. If you want to share some notes about each of your tenants or things like that, you can also go in and edit the first name, last name. If they've created the account, unfortunately, we can't update the email, but if they haven't, you can always make changes here. And then if the tenant's no longer, just delete the tenant. They're no longer in the summary page here. But that's pretty much what Baselane is as a whole. Any other questions I can answer? I hope that was helpful and got you all excited. Jake's checking. Thank
Awesome.
you.
Okay.
Thanks for your help.
Yeah, I mean, Larissa, like as always, it's a fantastic job. I don't know if there are any additional questions, but I do encourage everyone to like always feel free to reach out if there's more. Just for now, I sent the type form into the chat. So if you don't mind like taking the 45 seconds to help us, make sure these are as valuable as possible, we'd greatly appreciate it. And we will follow up with everybody that signed up for this webinar with the recording link as well.
Definitely. And if you have other questions, might I add, we have a full support team Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. They can be reached out at support@baselane.com. I do manage this team as well as our success team. That's success@baselane.com. I do demos twice a week, so I'd love to meet you all and kind of help you there. And thank you so much for your time. It was so wonderful to hear your questions. It was really active. This was our first one, so we'll host these every Friday, not next Friday, but going forward. And I think this is going to be really wonderful and successful. Again, thank you so much for your time. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you, Jake, for your help.
Oh,
Yes,
sorry. Before we drop, there's 2 more questions in the Q&A.
you got it.
The question was, if I have a maintenance charge for my tenant, how do I label it so it shouldn't be income?
You could split your transaction. Two things. Let's kind of talk about it. That's a great question. It's a maintenance charge, right? So you have rent collection. You have, they're paying $26.50 a month. That's a nice tenant. You're going to go to view all invoices and you're going to set up a manual invoice here, a one time, and you're going to say maintenance fee. And you'll do $100. Let's say you'll choose which bank account that will be. They'll have, the due date can be next Tuesday. Click create invoice and you have this invoice. They're going to be notified over email. They're going to pay that invoice. You're going to have that one-time fee added and you can, tag that as maintenance.
Perfect. Yeah, I think that's great. A couple more questions are coming in.
Love it.
What about collecting rent without email?
Yes. Unfortunately, and Jake, we should probably take some notes about this. I know there's there's a very different, very various tenants out there. Some are tech savvy, some maybe not so much. I've spent some time, helping those that are not so tech savvy, but you do need to have an email to set up their rent with us. We did provide an example where you could maybe still collect it manually and utilize our rent collection with maybe like a fake email and still get those invoices and manually. But if the tenant has to pay, they would need to have an email. We are looking at alternative options. I know there are some out there where they can submit cash and you can get that into your bank account and it's through a barcode or, various ways to do it. But right now the tenant does need to have an email.
Yeah, and part of that, just to clarify, right, is like in this world, there's a lot we have to do as well to protect our landlords from renter fraud. So emails and phone numbers are part of the way that we track like individuals and accountability, and can help, claw back funds in the case of any renter fraud as well. One question follow up about my erroneous international wire advice was can a tenant pay with an international debit or credit card as long as it's Visa or MasterCard?
Yes.
Yeah. And to Larissa's point, I think about 10% of our tenants pay via credit card. We charge like a pretty industry standard credit card fee, which like most everyone does if you're processing. But it, like I said, about 10% of our payment volume is credit card, and it's a very viable solution for tenants that you can use to pay rent.
Yes. Um, and I also want to leave everybody one quick moment here. Baselane is free, right? This is a free platform. We have various ways that we can charge fees a la carte. But I also want to mention, with our banking and our platform, there's we're really hands-on with our feedback. We find it invaluable and we want to hear what we need. We have a feature request board that we have our users have access to. They can upvote, they can add new features, they have visibility on our roadmap. I think that's what separates us from larger institutions is, you know, you can tell them your feedback, but they've set their ways. We're not really set in our ways. We're always redesigning. We're always making things more accommodating for our users. We're really listening. So I forgot to note here, it is free to use Baselane. There are those a la carte features that will have those fees that I've kind of labeled.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, everyone, thank you so much for the time. Really great engagement. And yeah, encourage you
Hi,
to
Michael Stewart. I know. Hi, Michael. I know Michael here, and we will help you. I definitely can hop off and make sure that my team will help you close that account. Thank you all. Thank you so much for all of your questions and the engagement. It really makes this so much fun. I hope you have a great weekend. Thank you, Jake, for your help. Take care, everyone.
everybody and happy
Bye.
holidays.